Hello guys, welcome to this edition of Smart Talk. Today we have Mr. Chinmay Kale over here to guide us for this new labor code and all the updates. So welcome Chinmay, over to you.
Thanks a ton, Gaurav. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. A warm good evening to everybody. So a brief intro about myself. I'm Chinmay Kale, Chartered Accountant. I'm qualified for more than 5 to 6 years of experience, and since then I'm closely collaborated with ClearTax as well. So today, with ClearTax in collaboration with Pocket HRMS, right? We are trying to decode what is the new code, right? So it is the new labor law for New India that has been put into place in the last month. So we are very eagerly trying to see what is the change that is going to come in. I'll start presenting my screen. So we'll start with the. Is that okay, Gaurav? We'll start presenting directly.
Yes, we can go ahead. Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much. Is it my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Cool. Great. Okay. So this is the new labor code that has been enacted in the last week of the November month, right? So in today's webinar, we're trying to decode what is this new labor code all about, right? So how it is going to impact the employee as a whole, employee segment as a whole, and what and all the statutory compliance requirements and the outside the statutory, what and all the structural changes that the employer and the HR team that are required to be done, right? And what and all the existing structure that are going to be invalid, and what are the immediate actions for the HR, and later what are the timelines by which we can see this has been coming to existence, right? So we'll start with the agenda part and we'll try to see like what and all the things are covered. So we'll try to see like why this labor code reforms are made. So first we'll try to understand the basics from where this started coming and why it was required. And second, just before this new labor law has been coming to existence, what are the previous like we will go back to like around a decade back and try to see because there are no much of a changes since then. So what are the previous 2 or 3 changes that has been enacted by the government? And what are the codifications into 4 labor laws, right? So you can see on the screen 4 labor laws or the codes that have been put into place. So how this has been codified, like how many like laws were there, how many have been submerged or consolidated to bring this new law, and the timelines of the enactment, and in between, when we discuss the key aspects of the each and every law, we will try to see the real-time scenarios or the real use case scenario. I've made few examples for the structural changes and everything. We'll look into that one as well. So then the last part is like obviously the Q&A part. Like if you have any questions in hand, like we can discuss on that part as well, right? So we'll jump into the session. Okay. So the first part, why this labor law has been reformed, right? So it's almost like 73 years of experience, 73 years of independence, right? So there are like no major laws related to the labor code has been made. So still after the so many years of experience, independence and the initial enactment of the law, our 90% of our Indian workforce has been under the unorganized sector only. So balance 10%, we call it as employees today. We are working in either in a IT industry or a manufacturing industry. Only that contributes to only 10%. Rest of the employer segment has been belonging to the unorganized sectors who are not been like say you can say the contract laborers or the people who are working on a piecework basis. They are not like specifically on an employee as an employee role, right? For these people, we do not see any statutory or a social security benefits as such, right? In order to cover majorly this and over, we can see this 90% of the unorganized workforce we are talking about that contributes to nearly 50 crore plus of population, right? So the earlier labor force were fragmented because there were like multiple laws were there that got distributed, and each and every laws have its own set of rules, regulation, definitions which were not able to consider, right? So the later like created the compliance part from the employer angles is also very harsh. So they have to file like multiple returns. Few of them are quarterly, monthly, and annually. The same information has to be repeated across the multiple statutory requirements. They are trying to uniform all this, right? In order to bring the security to the employees in the form of like, okay, so this is the one law that has been being into force and you will be covered by this. So that will bring the clarity to everybody, right? And at the national level also, we will get the proper uh, consideration saying that, okay, the proper laws has been enacted, which is updated in nature. And it will become ease of compliances also with the codification. And it will cover unorganized and the organized sector as well. So it will provide the benefits which are available for the current set of employee segment. It will be covered for the entire workforce segment, right? So just before jump into the labor code, as we told, like what and all the previous few of the changes that has been made, right? So one is related to the gratuity. So earlier in way back in 2018, this 20 lakh limit was applicable specifically for the government people, government employees. Earlier, there was a differentiation between the government and the non-government employees. So both of them were brought into the same segment. So entire 20 lakhs, the gratuity ceiling limit has been given. So the next year is digital wage payments. So earlier the payment of the wages side was not talking anything about the payment of the wages to the labor force, right? So now they introduce the digital wage payment where even if you make the payment by digital mode by check or by the way of NEFT or RTGS, now everything has been considered as a wage payments itself. So here it will help us to bring the audit trail and the tracking of the system will be more easier. So the maternity benefit was enhanced. Earlier, it was like around 4 to 4.5 months was maternity benefit was given to the employee. So the later it is enhanced to 26 weeks, right? So this was the high level glimpse of the previous uh, reforms that has been introduced as a part of the labor codes. So the next talking about the codification of the this particular four labor codes, right? So the first one is the code on wages, the code on social security, industrial relations code, and the occupational safety and health working conditions code, right? So these are like earlier there are like fragmented codes of 29 labor laws. So the number itself looks scary, right? So 29 labor codes, which we never heard of also, many of them being an CA or being a HR. So we didn't even know that 29 labor laws were there. So gradually, like the few of them were phased out and they were like converted into rules. Few of them were acts, but consolidatedly 29 were there and they are made into the submerged or consolidated four codes now, right? So each and every codes, as I said, has the different way of definition. Say that under the Payment of Gratuity Act, right? So it was the labor definition of the salary was different. Definition of the employee was different. The definition of the payment calculation method was different. On what basis you have to give the gratuity was different. The same thing with respect to the PF, ESI, even in terms of the leave encashment. All these things were having their own definitions. So tracking the each and every definitions and making it compliances was a very hardship one. So and across we have multiple departmental boards and multiple returns also, right? So these were causing actually the very nightmare for the finance and the HR team to compliance with. Now all these 29 labor codes has been consolidated into a four labor codes, and it is have a single definition for your wages, single definition for the employee, single definition for registration purpose, single mode of return. So just imagine one return per month you will be done with, right? So earlier, otherwise you have to file the PF, ESI, the other compliances. There were the very hardship were there, right? So now it is the compliance and the clarity part, it is made more easier, but flexibility in terms of the uh, that the employer used to enjoy, that has been slightly tightened, right? So there were no flexible opportunity for structuring your salary for the employees. All this well, we will gradually discuss about that. So initially I will just introduce I will tell what code is going to impact what segment of the payroll, right? So basically as an employee, what and all the things has it will be impacted. Code on wages, it will mainly impact the payroll impact. So basically your definition of the wages will change, right? So here this on the what basis you have to make the statutory calculations and everything that will be defined by the code of wages now. The second one is the social security that will mainly talk about the statutory compliances from the employer angle. What and all the social security contributions that employer has to do on what basis that it has to be done. Right. The third one is the industrial relations code. It talks about the union part, right? The employee union or the trade union you generally call. And what about what happens in case of the retrenchment or restructuring of the establishment? What happens with the closure? What happens with the registration purpose and everything? The third one is the occupational safety, to what extent the safety and the health cautious that the being an employer it has to be taken, and what and all the types of the employers. Now the employee definition has been broadened. We will discuss on that part as well. To what extent this to what and all the set of the employee segment that will be covered under this particular code as well. So all these are the four pillars we can say for the labor code going onwards. So code on wages and the social code on social security, which is to be like primarily to be concentrated because this is to be implemented on a quicker basis than the other ones I can see, right? So and it is going to hit our payroll interest as well because we have to like make the adjustments based on these two codes. So we will jump on to the first one, the code on the wages, right? So the first is like this is the amalgamation of the four acts, right? So one is the Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, and the Bonus Act, and the Equal Remuneration Act. These are the four acts, four acts that has been clubbed to make the code on wages. The timelines by which they were introduced and how it is going to get it enacted by the government, we will discuss after the discussing of these four codes. I will come to the timelines as well, right? So what is majorly required to concentrate on the code on wages, right? So this is the most critical code for the HR segment that we can consider. So because earlier, as I said, each law were having the different wage definitions and the company were having the flexibility to structure the employees salary structure, right? Here all those things have been like defined by the law itself, right? So first one you can see the definition of the wages. So all the money and the money equivalents, it includes the cash amount that you're going in the pay of tax, paying in the form of salary, and the money equivalents. So fewer times what used to happen is that instead of giving the money in order to like save on the statutory part, the employer used to arrange for the few of the trips or few of the in-kind gifts to the employees. All those things will be covered within a definition now. If you are sponsoring a trip to the employee to go for a Hong Kong or a Singapore, it will be covered by your within the definition of the salary, and it will be covered. You have to issue the form 16 for that. So all the money and the money equivalent remuneration by the way of salary, dearness allowance, and retaining allowances. These are the three basic salary element that has been covered by the wages definitions. In addition to that, you can add the allowances, right? Say that you can add your special allowances, LTA allowances, HRA allowances, all the allowances, provided it should not exceed the 50% of the above said three. So what I mean to say is that, so your salary is rupees 100, right? So the salary, dearness allowance, and retaining allowance. Generally in our private sector, only the basic salary will be covered, right? Dearness allowance and the retaining allowances will not be covered. So says this basic salary, dearness allowance, and the retaining allowance clubbed together has to become part of the 50%. And rest of your allowances, it can be bonus, it can be HRA allowance, LTA, special allowance, your children education, uniform allowances, all these allowance cannot be more than 50% of this. So it can be up to 50 is the basic and 50 is the rest. So if anything is going beyond 50, will be assumed as it will become part of the initial 50, right? So your all the statutory payment part from the employee deduction as well as the employer contribution will go on this initial 50% itself, right? So this has to be like carefully taken care, and the remuneration in kind can be capped at 15% of the wages. So you should not give remuneration in kind out of the balance 50 up to 15% of the basic wages itself. So if you are exceeding that in excess of 15%, what and all the additional things are giving, again it will be added back to a definition of 50% of the basic salary itself. Then full and final settlement has to be completed within 2 working days upon the exit of the employees. This is like very small timeline I can understand. So we can see upon the representations or anything, we can see slightly variations in this particular number. It can go up to maximum of 7 to 10 days, not beyond that. But so as of now, this is like full and final settlement has to be completed in 2 working days. And what and all the other key elements of this particular wage code is that central government is to fix the national floor wage, means like the minimum wages, which is yet to come as a rules, and equal pay for equal work. So if a one particular person is doing particular kind of a work, it has to be like equally compensated between all the kinds of the genders. It should not be any gender discrimination. And resignation, retrenchment, and termination, as I said. So upon these two things, the settlement has to happen within 2 working days. So the practical examples related to the Wage Act and the Social Security Act, I will club it together after the discussion of the next Social Security Code. But considering the wage code, this is the wage definition is majorly taking a hit, right? So we have to like immediate key takeaway from this particular code is that we have to sit on top of this on the restructuring of the salary immediately. The second one is code on the social security, right? Social security, mainly the term social security is generally is not used in our day-to-day life. We call it as PF insurance, all this stuff. But the social security is something that we can see as a part of the payroll of the US. So it will cover all your contributions being an employee and the employer, right? So wherever you contribute ESI, PF, and the pension and the gratuity. These are the 4 basic social security contributions to do. So here also the code has been enacted accordingly. So basically here 9 codes have been amalgamated to make a social security code. The heading got the bit of a changed. So all these compensation code, insurance code, and the provident code, maternity benefit, gratuity act, social security act, welfare fund, and the contractors fund, and the Employment Exchange Act. All this act will be clubbed together and will be made as a social security code earlier. And all these acts will be now will have a sunset. So now the social code security will come into picture. What and all the key areas? In the wage code, the definition of the wage got defined. Here, the employee definition got changed, right? So here it talks about who and all are the employees. Earlier we used to say is that only the people who are on to whom we issue offer letter, where we have an employer and employee engagement letter, only they are called it as an employee. But no. So here the law itself is defining who is an employee, irrespective of the mode or the way you call them, right? You can call them as a consultant, you can call them as a some other thing. So, but as a establishment, this is the definition of the employee, and you have to follow this. So now only the fixed term or a full-time employees were considered as an employees. The employees, those who were had for a specific project or a specific tenure. Here in this particular code, they are termed it as fixed term employees, right? Project basis, I will hire. If I am required, I will keep it. Otherwise, I will be like releasing him. So even these people will be covered. And the contract labors, generally we take them as a contractual basis, and few times we call it as consultants also. So consultants, if you have a specific agreement in terms of the consultancy, that is fine. But if they are regularly visiting your office and regularly working for your company or establishments, they will be treated as a contract laborers. Here we have to carefully define the terms of the employment for the contract laborers, to whom we call it as a consultant and the contract laborers. And the gig workers. Gig workers are basically our delivery boys, we can say, whether it is a Flipkart or a Amazon, those who provide the deliveries, or if it is a Zomato, we will provide the food parcel. And the platform workers, mainly we can popularly cover the drivers, Uber drivers, Ola drivers, or the captains in the Rapido. All these people will be covered under the platform workers. So even we can, in the urban clap also, we get the people to provide the door delivery services. Those are also considered as either within the definition of gig or a platform workers. Even these employees are the workers are covered under the labor law. So now all our social security cost will be expanded from small segment of employees to the bigger segment of organized plus unorganized. Here, our cost of the statutory is going to hit a lot, right? So we have to keep that one in mind. The second one is fixed term employees eligible for a gratuity without 5 years. Here, fixed term employees upon completion of uh, 240 days, right? They will be become eligible for the gratuity immediately because they are hired for the certain period or a certain project basis. And on a pro rata basis, you should provide them the gratuity. So 240 days is the if they are in your payroll for 245 days or the contract term is more than 240 days, automatically they will become eligible for a gratuity. So the unorganized workers, they can also will become the part of your employee role, and their registration will be mandatory based upon the other based registration. It will be enabled soon, right? So all these things are the fewer laws are there, or the fewer the earlier when you compare to the other acts, the acts code has been very concisely made. So it means that it is a shorter the law, the fewer the law doesn't mean that it is the simpler one. The accountability or the stricter, it will become the accountability part. So it will helps with the single registration part and the single electronic filings, unified returns, and the department will have the inspector also, a facilitator will be there who will be help you in making the complaint also. So how these two laws are going to impact, right? So I'm trying to cover it from the 2 point of angle. What is the relief for the HR and what is uh, the negative part? It is not a negative from the finance cost perspective. It will be a negative impact itself on the employer. So the relief of the employer is basically the compliance part, right? So you have to take a single registration. The existing registration will be combined and given a single registration upon meeting certain conditions in the online portal, and you have to file the single return, right? There is no like multiple returns that has to be filed. So monthly due dates will be given, and you have to submit everything in a single. The second is the pros is then the cons part, that is the highest statutory contributions. So we have to basically where we used to play around with allowances in order to keep the basic lower, right? So that will be totally need to be like immediately changed so that the PF has to be contributed, or the pension has to be contributed, or the gratuity has to be contributed on the 50% of the CTC. There is no compromise in that. You have to restructure the things. And the gratuity, so since the longer the term the employee remains with you, the longer will be the gratuity, because even though the definition of making the payment of the gratuity remains the same, but the base element of the basic salary definition is getting changed. Automatically, the provision of the gratuity has to be taken care, right? Wage definition will be applicable to the ESIC also. Earlier, few of the organization used to keep the ESIC separately, right? So in those cases, the wage definition will come under the ESIC definition, will applicable for the ESIC definition also. Over there, 21,000 threshold is there for the basic salary. With increase in the basic salary, even though the larger segment of the unorganized people are moved out of the ESIC, but the the base on which the ESIC is paid is getting widened, right? So I can see this statutory part is mainly going to hit the manufacturing units, or where the labor heavy oriented companies, right? Where we can expect at least a minimum of 20 to 22% of increase in the PF cost alone, not considering the ESIC and their own. PF cost alone, we are expecting to increase by 20%. So I'm just trying to give one, the case study for the impact on per 100 employees. Say that monthly CTC per employee, right, is rupees 1 lakh, right? Earlier, standardly, we used to structure the basic around 35 to 40%, which is around like 35,000. Now with the new wage code, it is coming to 50,000. Automatically, when you calculate 12% of this employer contribution towards the PF and few of the options to contribute to the NPS also, automatically you can see that with the same CTC, with just change in the basic salary for 100 employees, there is increase in the cost of around like 1.8 lakh in terms of PF and 1.5 lakh in terms of NPS. So, and also the gratuity payout upon completion of 5 years, right? I'm considering the full-time employees only. It is getting increased by around 3.5 lakhs, right? So this is to the extent the hit is to be taken by the establishment being an employer. So what and all the immediate action items for the HRs, right? So here the HR has to review the compensation structure that has been defined for the employees. We have to see that what and all the things are getting changed. Basically, the definition of the employee, definition of the wage structure. We have to sit and start working on that. What is the mutually beneficial? It should not hamper the employee also, and it should be abiding the law as well, and it should try to reduce the cost of the company also, right? And we have to redesign the basic and the allowances ratio. So the restructure will majorly focuses on this particular assembly, because here where the large amount of imbalance is there, I can say. So basic will increase, allowances will reduce. Whether we have to communicate the employee with respect to the compromise on the compensation part, or the existing compensation has to be adjusted with the new law, that is something has to be decided. And tackling the cost of bonus, overtime, leave encashment that are directly linked to your salary part. So basic salary, whenever the employee leaves the company, the leave encashment is directly linked to the basic salary. And if it is a manufacturing unit, if it is a overtime, directly linked to your salary. Bonus is also certain percentage of your basic salary. All these are cumulatively affecting your payroll cost, right? So what and all the key things that we have to do immediately is that first one is the appointment letters. So employee safety, that is the fourth code we are going to discuss, that mandates the issuance of the appointment letters. And also the social security, sorry, the wage code talks about the settlement process. And if you have any internal HR manuals are there, that has to be updated so that all the people in the HR team will be aware about the what is the latest changes that has been adopted by the establishment. And the employment contract has to be like wherever it is necessary has to be rechanged, right? And fewer employees will be there because of the increase in the basic salary. Employer contribution will be higher. In parallel, employee contribution will also be higher. So we have to convince the employee saying that why is taking lesser take-home salary, right? And why there is an increase in the statutory deductions. So these are the two things that we have to convince the employee. They will be a layman, may not be unaware about the law and everything. So for the layman, making them understanding and making them trying to help them with the real case scenarios, or post one or two initial compliances showing them that, okay, this is getting how it is, the additional reduction in the take home salary, how it is going to reflected in his PF passbook or something, we have to make him understand. So from these two codes, we can say the salary structure designed only to the PF will fail, right? So salary structure has to be restructured. So you have to make it compliant. HR teams must strengthen the exit process. Delays will no more be complement, because within 2 working days or we have to make the settlement, full and final settlement. So making sure that collecting the asset devices, IT assets or the ID cards, getting the NOC from all the departments, it has to strengthen the HR exit process more stronger, right? So we have to make sure that he will be settled everything within 2 working days. That is the main thing. These are the key takeaways from the two parts. And moving onwards to the next industrial relations code. This is the combination of the basically the three acts. So one is the Trade Union Act and Employment Act and the Disputes Act. So here the major changes related to the how the trade union used to be formed and everything. So what are the key changes are there in this? So one is the standing orders. So this is the standing orders. Generally, we do not use in a regular way, real time. So standing order means these are the formal and legal binding rules that define the company's terms of the employment, terms and conditions of the employment. It with respect to the working classification, who are the skilled, unskilled workers, or the working hours definition, what is the leave policy, misconduct policy. So standing orders now is applicable to the establishments who are having the employees of more than 300. Earlier it was 100. There is a bit of a leeway. So we can call it as large organizations. 300 employees or the 300 workers, we can call it as a large organization. Now all these mandateness to have these standing orders is applicable for the large organization. So this particular law talks about the fixed term employment. Right. So the fixed term employment, as I was telling, he will be eligible for all sort of benefits, right? Mainly in terms of the gratuity, if he is like completed 240 days in a company. So these full fixed term employments, just like a UAN for the regular employees, these employees will also get a separate registration. So for them, automatically they will become eligible for the gratuity. Here with this, our provision for the gratuity in the finance terms, if the finance team is also present as a part of this call, we will create the provision for the gratuity in the books of the accounts, provision for the leave encashment as a part of the books of the accounts based upon the arbitration arbitrars working or actuarial, sorry, not arbitration, actuarial workings. We will make a provision. So what is the expected people, those who are going to complete 5 years? As per the earlier law, we used to make a provision and we used to set aside the amount for that, right? And next one is the permission for the government for the layoff. Earlier, like we have seen after the COVID, good amount of the layoff and the retrenchment happened. Now, all these large organization is required to mandatorily take the approval from the government if they are going to make a layoff or a retrenchment of the people, right? So for the employees or the trade unions who are planning to do a strikeout or a blackouts of the, or the blackouts as in like a temporary close down of the organization in for lack of support in terms of the working conditions, though they have to provide the 14 days prior notice. Without that, they cannot do any strikes. If they do the strikes, it will become illegal. And if the organization or the establishment is planning to shut down its operations and making the obviously you have to take the prior permission from the government because the layer it will be indirectly called it as a retrenchment only. So 60 days prior notice has to be given to the employees as well, right? And also compensation has to be given for the in case of a particular person has been removed as a part of the closure or the part of the employee restructure program. If the particular person is laid off or retrenched, he has to be compensated. That rules and definitions will come gradually, but he has to be compensated. And if there is any takeover, merger or demerger of the company, which we call it as change in control, right? So in those cases, if the employment terms are getting changed, say that permanent employee is converted into fixed term employee or a contract employee, or like he will be pushed into a regular employee to a non-regular employee, he will be like has to be compensated. So there is a one hidden cost is there. So if you are removing any of the if you any of the employee or if the establishment is planning to shut down, right? So the government is going to establish a reskilling fund for the providing the reskilling program for the unorganized group of people. For them, last 15 days drawn salary of the each and every employee has to be deposited to this reskilling fund. This program or the reskilling fund is at the very high level. Single liner requirement has been given. So provision related to this plus where you have to deposit the fund and everything has to be the rules and regulations will come gradually. But this is something has to be kept in mind. So while you are like removing any of the particular person, this his 15 days salary has to be deposited to this particular fund as well. So the last code, the occupational safety, health and working conditions code. So we call it as WOSHCO code. WOSHCO code. So this is the good number of the acts were there that has been combined. So almost you can see 13 plus 6, almost 21 codes are there that have been amalgamated to make this particular WOSHCO code. So it mainly talks about employment safety, working conditions, right? So sorry. So what and all the employee level safety and the health cautious conditions that has to be taken, right? It also defines about the weekly hours. So few rules will be framed by the central government related to this, and few rules will be framed by the state government according to the requirement of their respective states as well. That flexibility is also given. So you can see at the large maximum 8 hours work a day, and if the worker is going to do beyond 8 hours of work, it has to be considered as a overtime, and it has to be compensated according to the rules. This overtime payment definition will also be covered by the Wage Act. So we have to strictly, minimally, we have to pay overtime compensation according to that. So earlier it used to be the HR policy driven. Now it will be driven by the law, right? So weekly hours are also capped. That will be defined by the state rather than the central rules. 1 day weekly rest is mandatory, and leave encashment upon completion of 240 days of the working, it will be compulsory, right? If the employee is aged more than 45 years, his annual health checkup cost will be borne by the company, or employer has to facilitate for his annual health checkup, right? So women are also allowed to do a night shift in fewer segment of the places. For example, minings, right? Over there, women were not allowed to do a night shift. With their consent, they are allowed to do the night shifts now, right? And this OSHA code will talks about the registrations, what and all the compliances, because all the other codes will talk about the what and all the requirements to be followed. Here we will talk about the compliances part, how we will going to happen. So here it is a single electronic registration across all the requirements for all the compliances part, and the existing registration will be automatically taken care by the newer course that has been promised. But the transition will be there. How we are going to migrate and everything, that will be rules will be framed for that, right? So here contract employees who are like going to join, they also required to get a license, which is having a validity of 5 years. And a single contract can work across the multiple states also. It is a national or a pan level license you can consider. So whenever you hire a contract based employee, he should have this license. Here employer should educate or help the employee to get this license. This is what the law itself says, right? It is not the owners, or the facility has to be provided by the employer. So the option will be there in the portal itself to give them the license. So the applicability of all these codes and the registration is given there. So in case of the factory, with the aid of power, without the aid of power, the requirement is 10 and 20. And the building and the construction 10, and the contract labor, wherever they are purely working on more than 50 contract labors, this session. So generally, everybody will work with the help of the power itself. So all the software industries, IT industries, manufacturing industries will be covered under the first limb itself. So all the more than 10 workers, if you are having, whether it is a full-time contract, gig worker, platform workers, irrespective of that, you have to take this registration, right? So now we will talk about the timelines, right? So this is the key aspects. So uh, the four new labor codes were passed by the parliament in 2019-20 itself, right? So, but they were in the form of bills, they were passed in the parliament, but it is not uh, until it is actually notified in the official gazette. We call it as official gazette. In the OG, if unless if it doesn't come in the form of the law, it will not be called it as notified. So initially, when the codes were passed in the parliament, it will be open in the form of draft. So it is open for the public opinions, and anybody like can make the representations and everything. So upon that, few of the necessary fine tunings or the tweakings will be made, and after that, it will be notified as a law. So with effect from 21st of November 2025, now it has been formalized as a law. So the government has officially brought four labor codes in place of the 29 laws. This will be immediately will come into effect. But what and all, which out of this, how much is immediately action is required, and which is going to get phased wise implementation is done. So that we will also discuss. So what becomes effectively immediately, right? So the definition of the salary, there is no requirement for the compliances to be made. So since the act is already formalized and enacted, this restructuring of the salary and the definition of the employee has to be immediately will become enactment. So HR team or the finance team of the company who is taking care of this HR department has to make sure that this payroll structure is done immediately, restructuring part. And it directly impact the cost of the PF, ESI, gratuity and other costs. So we have to ascertain the cost and wherever the necessary provisions are required. Fewer establishment will do monthly, quarterly provisions, has to get the actual valuations done and get the necessary valuations corrected. And expanded definition of the employee, as I said, it will cover now the fixed term employees, contract workers, gig workers, platform workers. Make sure that you define the employee and try to have a count of your larger definition of the employee as well. Revise threshold for standing orders and the layoff approvals, where the people who are trying to plan for the layoffs or the retrenchment of the people, make sure that if you are covered within the definition of that 300 employee segment or the large establishment, you need to seek the necessary layoff unless the rules are specified. Maybe it will be a gray area whether you can lay off immediately or wait for the government to notify the rules, then take the prior approval, then start doing the layoff. This is something gray area we have to determine. And the common registration for the establishment, there is no multiple departments, multiple platforms we have to go through. All the registration and everything will be taken in a single registration, which will be notified sooner. What is phased, right? So gig workers, aggregate or the unorganized worker compliance, because all these were not having the UAN, which is required for the PF purpose, they were not having it. How they are going to get whitelisted in the form of the registration, that will be scheme notification will be there or the formulation will be there, that will be done. Safety and the hazard inspections, licensing for the contractual workers, enhanced maternity and the insurance schemes, even the insurance schemes for all the employees is going to introduce. And the national floor wage, revised bonus ceilings, inspector come facilitator, how these are going to get managed. All these things will be coming in a very phased manner. So this is at large what we can call it as a new labor code. So we have discussed majorly the timelines and what and all the changes in the definitions of the pages, employees, how it is going to hit the cost of the company mainly, and what and all the key things that the HR should immediately act upon, right? These are the main thing that we have discussed. So already we are 4 minutes late by the determined time. So I will open the forum for the Q&A now. So we'll go for the Q&A. We'll see like if you have any questions as such.
Yes, there are some questions in chat box.
Sure, Gaurav. I'll just have a look.
So the first question, I guess it was already, it was like, when will these rules take effect? Rahul is asking, when will these rules take effect? Exactly when?
So these rules are like the definition part, as I mentioned, is already in effect from 21st of November. So, but how are they are going to be like the registration part, the rules in respect to the segment which are covered under the new law, right? For them, it will be like defined. So as I mentioned, these are the, yeah. So immediate things are these are going to come in effect. These are the 5-6 points. So where like being an establishment which we require to take upon. The gradually like phase wise scheme rules, formulations and everything will be done for this. So salary restructuring is the main thing that we have to immediately take care of.
Okay, so the next question is by Sonal. Are consultant and freelancers are covered under these labor codes? Consultant and freelancers.
Yes. So we have to like strictly define who are the consultants, freelancers, and the contractual laborers, so the contractual employees. So if the contractual employees will be there with you for a longer period of time, right, and they will be working with you on a day-to-day basis, they will be no more call it as of consultants or the freelancers. they will be covered under the definition of the contractual labors, and all the definition of the employee definition will cover even them as well. Rather, you can start calling them as a fixed term employees, where because the only the gratuity is going to help them, and even like all the statutory contributions are also required. So, but consultants and the freelancers are not enjoying this social security like compensations, right? Just to make sure that even to contribute for them also this is required. So the definition started covering them as well.
Okay. Okay, so there is a question by Durgesh. Is there a way to exclude employee from PF? Earlier it was 15K.
Threshold will remain the same itself. So if the employee is having any CTC per month CTC of below 30,000, automatically he will be excluded. If he is having per month CTC of more than 30,000, automatically he will come under the bracket. There is no way for the employee to be excluded from the PF.
Okay. Durgesh is asking, do we need to re-register? Exactly, I don't know. I don't know. Do we need to re-register?
Registration mainly is like the people, those who are having already the PF registration, ESI registration, what they have to do. So this will be a migration thing. So because everything will be shifted to a common registration portal itself. So the rules related to that and everything, till the time the new rules have been framed and everything, according to the new wage definition or structure, we need to start doing the remittances of the PF, ESI and calculation of the gratuity, NPS and everything. So how we are going to get migrated gradually, because the social security contributions in the form of PF, NPS or a gratuity or a ESI, it is not going to get changed. It will be clubbed under the same law, under the same name itself, and the contributions will continue as it is. Till the moment the common portal has been notified, you will be doing the same contribution to the respective set of people under the new wage definition and under the new wage employee definition. So here your cost of the PF or the statutory everything will start increasing from the day one of the 21st November itself. There is no immediate requirement to do the re-registration. That scheme and the notification that will come in.
How to calculate ESIC? If basic is 50% of gross, will the ESIC be calculated on 50% of gross or total gross?
If basic, okay, ESIC contribution is also on the basic salary itself, right? So your total CTC is like, again, if I take an example of over there also the threshold of 21,000 is there, right? So for the ESIC, if your like salary is 40,000 per month, basic salary will amount to 20,000. So now you are like mandatorily has to contribute to the ESIC on 20,000 rupees. It is not 50% of the base. If it is not 50% of the gross, it is 50% of the gross is the basic wages, and the ESI percentage has to be done on your basic wages. And now earlier what used to happen is that 40,000 was your total CTC. You used to structure your salary saying that 10,000 is basic, 10,000 is HRA, 10,000 is other allowance, 10,000 is bonus. So now straight away 50% is basic, rest is another 50%. So your ESIC liability will be more on the additional 10,000.
Okay. So Savvy is asking, can special allowances be considered in inclusions as it is not specifically mentioned in the exclusions?
So in the wage definitions, they have given basic, the salary, dearness allowance and retaining allowance are the three basic three things will contribute your 50%. These three based on which you have to pay your all the statutory compliances. Anything that you can pay rest of the 50% as you wish, but it should not exceed 50%. If it exceeds 50%, automatically it will add up to the initial 50. So your salary is equally bifurcated now, 50% as a basic retaining and the dearness allowances, and rest of them are others, right? So you have to structure it in this way only, and your PF will be calculated on your initial 50 only, half of the salary.
Okay, the next question by Dhwani. Statutory bonus, which is paid on monthly bonus, to be considered in definition of wages, since exclusion has on bonus that is not part of salary.
See, like how we are terming this as a bonus, whether you are making it part of the CTC, then yes, it is automatically within fall under the definition of wages. If you are giving this bonus in the form of any other in kind also, in the form of vouchers or in the form of gifts or anything, that should not exceed 50%. That is also there. But if you are giving in cash the bonus to the employee as a part of his payroll, then it will be covered under the definition of wages itself. It cannot be excluded.
Okay. Navin is asking, any bonus payable under any law for the time being in force, which does not form part of the remuneration payable under the terms of employment. If statutory bonus is paid on monthly basis, will it be included in the definition of wages? It's a long question, yeah.
So it is on the same line.
Mhm.
So you can say that bonus, which for the time being info, which does not become part of the remuneration payable. Like, okay, ultimately, when you define your CTC, automatically this bonus was generally considered as far as I seen, right? So you say that like annual package is 10 lakhs, 8 lakh is fixed and 2 lakh is variable. You will define it the day one itself. When you define it the day one itself, automatically to this 2 lakhs is part of your remuneration itself, and you will be paid with this 10 lakhs. So, okay, upon meeting this, not meeting the performance or anything, this 2 lakhs may vary. But when you consider the actual bonus amount, even if it is zero or even if it is 100%, so 50% has to be go to the basic and rest of the thing is very simpler. 50% and 50%. This is the rule, thumb rule, basic thumb rule.
Okay. Okay. So only asking consultants which are on hourly basis, they are not covered as contractual employees. So I'm not understanding.
So by looking at the things, so how long they are going to be there with you? So consultants are working with you on a day-to-day basis, with you on a regular projects of the company, and they are going to be there with you for more than 240 days. Automatically, they will become part of your payroll and all the benefits you have to be given to them. So after the enactment of law, I don't think so. Nobody will start hiring the people on a contractual basis. Everybody will start taking them as the fixed employees only. Even if you consider there's as a consider the if to say that okay me
Contractual.
right. So as of now, I'm a consultant to the ClearTax because I never work them today on a day-to-day basis. They will ask me on a piecework basis. I come and do the webinars and I will go. I will not be treated as an employee because I am never engaged in their projects or anything as such, right? So here it depends upon the type of the work you get that particular employee will do with you. So accordingly, you have to term the agreements also.
Okay, so there are three questions by Manu. First one is, on which components of wages OT and gratuity calculations to be considered?
OTI means like overtime and the gratuity is like basic. So the basic salary definition covers salary, that is a basic salary, DNS allowance and the retaining allowance. Generally, the second twos are not covered. The DNS allowance are generally covered by the government people and are the government employees. Are the retaining allowance, nobody I never seen in the payroll. Generally, you can it has to be calculated on the 50% of the CTC, monthly CTC.
Okay. The second question is, whether special allowance, food allowance, telephone allowance are excluded in the definition of wages.
It is included till the 50% of your definition. So as I said, 50% is basic wage, which will help in contribute calculation of PF. And second 50%, if it covers everything, well and good. If it doesn't cover, it will not cover as a wages, it will cover as a basic wages. It will shift to the second limb to the first limb.
Third one is, retaining allowance will not apply to all industries, university, right? Retaining
Generally,
allowance.
as I said, retaining allowance are not popularly used anywhere. So this is like we call it as joining bonus or something like that. So not as a part of the regular salary. So I do not think so. Retaining allowance is popularly used. Yeah.
So Rajkumar is asking whether graduate training engineer or apprentice covered under new labor code.
Apprentices, yes, they are covered under the new labor code, but it is very generically they have given the definition of the apprentice. So
Mhm.
whether they are doing as a part of the education, if they are doing the apprenticeship, whether they are covered as a part of the post education before getting into the actual job, if they are doing the apprentice. So
Mhm.
these things actually really matters. For that, we have to wait for the rules.
Okay. Ashok is asking if a consultant is appointed through a consultancy firm, do he will be considered as an employee?
No, here you are appointing consultancy firms directly, right?
Right.
So say
Mhm.
that securities and everything or group D workers and everything, they are through a consultancy. We are paying them the lump sum check based upon the agreement. So here, those set of workers will come under the definition of the employee of that consultancy firm. It will not be covered as an employee for you. For you, it is a direct contract between you and that firm, not with the employees.
Okay. Um, Nagaranjit. Okay, Nagaranjit is asking, what is the minimum employee count for a company to consider these codes?
So as I, in the last in the OSHO code, I have shown you a particular small slide wherein like the applicability. If you are having more than 10 employees, then it will be covered.
Okay.
You will be covered in
Uh,
that. It is similar to our PF compliance requirement itself.
Ramesh is asking, is it necessary to apply PF calculation on 50% of basic or wage should be 50% of CTC as per new wage code? And can we keep PF calculation at 12% of actual basic without capping the wage selling limit at 15K and not at 50% of basic?
Here, wage definition itself tells that 50% of your total compensation has to be basic. When the basic definition of the wage itself tells that, then your contribution to the pay towards 12% of the contribution that you do as a PF, that has to be calculated on the 50% of the basic. Here it is very straight away they have given the definition. So there is no room for us to like interpret it in other ways. So 100 rupees is the cost, employee cost, 50 will become the basic, 12% of that 50 has to be the PF cost of the company.
Okay. So Bhanu is asking, so what exactly the retaining allowance quoted in ESI circular recently circulated?
So it is similar to the joining bonus, you can say, but it is paid on a monthly basis.
Mohan was asking, DA and retaining allowance should be mandatory in CTC structure.
So these three are the basic elements that defines 50%. If you do not pay DA and retaining allowance, your basic salary will have to be 50%. Your combination of these three shall be 50%, they are mentioned. So whether you pay only basic, whether only DA, only retirement, or the combination of these three should be 50%. So it is not mandatory to pay all these allowances. You can simply keep basic as 50, rest allowances as another 50.
So another question by Dhwani is, can organization other than seasonal industry consider retaining allowances in the salary structure?
Professional industry. I don't get this
Seasonal,
question.
even I'm not able to understand. We'll skip it. Next question is by Ashok. No, it is again repeated. If concerned, then okay. So Rajni is asking, will we get extra benefit from the client on already bidded or submitted tenders which are to finalize soon?
Okay, so basically, generally in the tenders or in the quotations or whatever the mutual agreements that we generally enter, it's subject to the terms and conditions of the law existing as on that particular day. So this new code is going to be like prospectively will affect from 21st of November, right? So from what angle I'm trying to tell you, I don't know. So say that you are agreed for an uh, for us X amount with for the security person, if I am trying to interpret in that particular way. So then your consultancy firm may come back to you and renegotiate on this cost, because his cost towards the PF, his cost towards the statutory other requirements may increase. Because of that, he may demand slightly higher amount from you. This is purely based upon the negotiations only. You may agree or may not agree for that.
Srikant is asking, can employee opt off 1800 flat PF if basic salary is more than 15K?
Here, there is no question of opting at all. So employee has to give 12%, because here employer is giving 12% of 50%, right? So there is no question for the employees to opt. So 12% of the actual basic will be deducted. Earlier, for the actual purpose, we used to calculate 15% separately. And for the structure purpose, we used to calculate this basic separately. Now, everything has to be calculated on a same definition itself. There is no option for the employees to opt out or opt in. He has to contribute his 12% on his actual basic salary only.
Kalpana asking, other allowances will be included in PF calculation or not?
Till now, other allowances were never considered, because that is only the way where we used to structure the salary to keep the basic minimal. So till now, going onwards also, 50% will be the basic and other allowance will be the rest of the basic. So 50% is the basic salary on which you will be paying the PF.
Okay. Shop and Establishment Act. Shop and Establishment is covered under which code?
Shop and establishment, all the companies are called as establishments only by the definitions. So there is no separate definition, because in Karnataka we call it as shop and establishment license. So it will be obtained for even by the Kirana store also, Nandini Dairy also, even the other establishment, factory and everything. So this is the generic license has been covered. So you have to check your eligibility as per the table that I have shown. So I may present once again, but so in that, if you are like a company, generally we talk about the company. Here I can say most of the HRs are from the software or the IT company itself. Here we come under the definition of factory, which is having more than 10 employees, then you will be covered.
Sridhar is asking, if employees are in probation period, if they are getting only stipend, then what will be the rule for them?
See, this has to be required the clarification. So they will be covered under the apprentices, right? Or the interns. So where like if they are doing as a part of their educations, 99% they will not be covered. If as a part of the post PG or a post graduations or something like that, if they generally in the nursing segment, in the majorly doctors do that. Post PG, they will work for certain hospitals on a consultancy basis. They will be covered, even though they are called as apprentices. So they will be covered. But as a part of the study curriculum, I don't think so. It will be covered.
Yeah. Is there any upper cap of basic in overall CTC? For example, can basic be set at 90% of overall CTC?
It can be, but 50% is the basic they have been asked for. Generally, like 50%, I see that very harsh on the company itself. Though there is no upper cap on the entire 100 rupee, you can call it as basic only and contribute PF on that. There is no restrictions on that.
Okay, but okay. I guess this one is already answered. So Ramesh has already. So in reference to the earlier question on PF, the PF rule says the contributions are payable on maximum wage saving of rupees 15,000, or the employee can pay at a higher rate. And in such case, employer is not under any obligation to pay at such higher rate. In such cases, can we not restrict the PF contribution at 12% of basic and make 15% of wages as including other components like DA plus retainer allowance? Yes, you can see the question in chat box to the last question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The employee can pay at a higher rate, and in case of the employer is not covered on obligations to pay at a higher rate. In cases, we can restrict the PF to contribution to 12% of basic and 50%. That's what, right? So you have to pay the 12% on the basic. That is right. So, but you cannot ask the employee to contribute on a higher rate. See, like whatever the contributions that you do on the what the basic you consider as a part of the payroll. Here earlier we had a flexibility for the employee to contribute. Say that for as a part of the CTC, my basic wage is 20,000 rupees, right, on a monthly basis. But as per the employee, I may opt, I will be paying on as per the actual, that is on the 20,000. The employer may give the PF on the as per the ceiling limit of 15,000, right? This was the option that we had. Either you pay on 50,000 only or you pay on 20,000. So there is no option at all because now the PF has been replaced by the wage code or the social security code now. So now everybody has to contribute on your as per the wage definition. So if you are like 20,000 is your basic wage, pay 12% on basic wage, being an employer or an employee. That's it. That's what, like, we are being an HR, it will become hard for them to convince on the lower compensation part, in hand salary, lower in hand salary. Yes.
So I guess we are at the end. Okay, the last question, last question. So guys, this is the last question by Dhwani. So wages should be 50% of gross or CTC. So in CTC, it is gross plus employer PF, ACS contribution plus gratuity.
So definition, employer contribution towards the PF and the gratuity will be set aside. So cost to the company, yes. For the company, employer contribution and the gratuity provision will also include. But for the wage definition, what and all the benefits that you're going to give it to him? Because this employer PF contribution and the gratuity is not part of the wage definition, because this is the employer contribution for the welfare of the employee. Even though it is cost to the company, but will not cover under the definition. So all the allowances other than the employer contributions has to be 50%. I am not able to understand, Vani. So, what can organization other than the
Industry.
industry
Yes.
written?
Okay, so let me, Dhwani, okay, let me unmute you. Yes, Dhwani, I'm allowing your mic. Please unmute yourself and ask your question for better understanding.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
Dhwani, we can hear loud
Yeah,
and clear.
actually, my concern is as per the definition of returning allowances, it is given to employees in seasonal industry for the period they are not working, right? So
Yeah.
that's my question is that ki, for organization or for establishment other than seasonal industries, can retaining allowances be included in salary structure?
There is no negative rule as such that you cannot include. You are free to include because the retaining allowances, yes. Now I was able to recall. So generally, in case of Kashmir and everybody, in case of a heavy snowfall days, there will not be any majorly of the visitors as such. In those cases, there will not be a major tourist people, and in those cases, hotel staff will also be lesser. In those cases, they will provide the retaining allowances in order to compensate for the non-payment days also. So retaining allowance maybe you can apply this particular allowance anywhere. There is no hard and fast rule saying that you have to adopt as per the seasonal industries only. Generally, they will adopt, not the others. It is mandatory for them, not for the others.
And is there any limit for this, or we can, adjust whatever amount we want, we can give it for retaining allowances?
Retaining allowance will be covered under the basic definition now. So up to 50%, we can adjust with the basic DNS allowance and the retaining allowance. All three together can become part of the minimum of 50% of the total employee cost.
Thank you, Chinmay.
Yeah, all right, Dhoni. Thank you very much.
Okay, Chuna, can we take two more questions because people are raising their hands?
Surely, surely.
Yes. So yes, I'm allowing Mike Bhanu. Bhanu, yes, Bhanu. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? I allowed you mic. Bhanu, you can unmute yourself and ask question. Okay, Bhanu's not listening. Oh, yes, Ashok. Let me allow your mic, Ashok. Ashok Sharma, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. You are raising your hand.
Yeah, yes. Hello, Chinmay. It was a really great learning session today. And thank you very much for the same. My question was, if a consultant is appointed through a consultancy firm, do he will be considered as an employee?
So I think I already answered this. Okay, I will just once more I will answer that. So you are
Hmm.
making an agreement with a third party firm, right? So where
Yeah,
you will be asking him to like give me 10 stars, right?
yeah.
So I need like this level of skill and I require like these 5 employees plus these 5 employees. So for them, you have the direct contractual terms with the consultancy firm, and you will be paying on a monthly basis the fixed amount. So these people will not be termed as an employee. They will be termed as an employee of that consultancy firm. So how
Okay,
he is hiring, it is up to him. Whether he is hiring them as well as a consultants or the employees or anything as such, he will that for that consultancy firm, he will be defined as an employee. So not for you.
okay. And the company didn't have any issue on that as a
Nothing.
terming as an employee. Yeah,
Make
thank you
sure
very
that
much.
you have a proper contractual agreement with that consultancy firm. That is the very key to
Okay,
prove that these 10 employees are not my employees. These are the consultancy firm representatives.
now in our organization, only one person is there.
Haha.
So, so then there is no issue of 10.
Okay.
And he's appointed through the consultancy firm and he regularly comes to the office. Does it work and go?
He can work and go or she can work and go, but make sure that this agreement has been executed.
Yeah, agreement is done along with that.
Yes. Then you are on a
Okay, thank
safer.
you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, I guess this the questions are all over, and we already exceeded 18 minutes, Chinmay, so we should wind up this session. Yes.
Sure.
Any last point Chinmay would like to share?
So yeah, so considering there's a new labor code, I can see that okay, it is harsh on the companies towards the uh, considering the contributions, but if we consider the workforce or the laborers or the employees, right? So we can see that many home delivery boys or these delivery boys of the e-commerce players, they were not actually like properly covered under any of the benefits, right? In just to make sure that all these people gets the proper benefits, this new labor law has been included gradually. Yes, so we will get used to it, and then we will start getting adopted to the newer wage code, and it will help these set of unregulated set of the labors will be able to get the proper benefits. So we have to take it in a very positive way. So, and we start to stay compliant. And whenever the transition or the migration that comes from our regular registration to the updated or the upgraded registration, please do that. And for that, if we get any opportunity, we will try to help you in that way also. And as we know that clear tax is there, so it is not about only the taxes, it's all about the compliances that we help. So if you need any sort of a help in terms of the income tax or any law in case, please reach out to our support team, or we will share the contact details of the I'll just present my screen and share the contact details of
Yes,
our
sure,
support,
sure.
so that they will be able to get in touch with you. So these are the contact details. So you can write over the email or you can directly connect with them. They will directly help you with any of your nuances or anything as such. Okay.
Guys, you
Yeah.
can take a screenshot of this slide and you can contact them later if you want any kind of services with the ClearTax. Any doubts?
Yeah, Gaurav, then thank you for this opportunity to provide sharing this knowledge with everybody. So all the privileged segment of the company, we consider it as the HRs, because they will standing beside the employees who are the backbone of the companies, right? Who will motivate on our day-to-day basis to make them or like full efficiency. They will help us to work in the company. So they are like actually there has to be supported a lot. So thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity for Pocket HRMS as well as the Clear Tax for me giving this opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chinmay. Thank you so much, guys, for joining today's edition of Smart Talk. See you soon in the next edition, the next month, and probably in the next year itself. Yes. So, in advance, Happy New Year and happy weekend. Bye bye.
Yes. Thank you. Bye bye.